Welcome to Cheating Web Stories. We've got a thrilling story for you today, and we hope you love it. So sit tight, and let's get into the story. Evelyn Keller was beaming as she merged her BMW onto the interstate in Atlanta. She knew she would be arriving home a couple of hours later than she had planned, but she would simply blame it on the famous Atlanta traffic. Edward had made the delay in leaving well worth the time she lost. He was almost 10 years younger than Evelyn and was an excellent lover. He was good-looking, smart, a great conversationalist, and young enough to recharge rather quickly. By the time Evelyn got to think of her husband, Jasper, he had just turned 44 and was less energetic than Edward. He depended on his experience and knowledge of Evelyn's body to make their love life very satisfying. It was always great to go home and sleep in his arms after spending some time with Edward. She realized that she had the best of both worlds, and her smile became even wider. The further she had gotten from Atlanta, the less she thought of Edward. He was a riot, but Jasper and her daughter Alice were the ones she loved. Evelyn needed to see them now that her libido had been so thoroughly satisfied. She knew her moods, and she would be kind and loving to Jasper upon her arrival home. He was a good man and a brilliant husband. Alice was sportive and clever. Due to various sports and school activities, she had quite a few friends. It wasn't out of the ordinary for 2 or 3 girlfriends to be at the house every weekend. Evelyn loved interacting with the young ladies, and they looked up to her as some sort of role model. She was always well-dressed. According to Evelyn, she had a great job with an architectural firm and was well-regarded in the community. She and Jasper were well-regarded as individuals and together. Jasper now ran his family's thriving construction company. He was never too busy not to attend every one of Alice's school functions. Evelyn always loved having Jasper sit next to her as they watched their daughter perform or play whatever sport she was into. She had picked up that more than a few of the other fathers enjoyed glancing at her surreptitiously, but she had also noticed how many mothers stared at Jasper like they were vultures, and he was roadkill. Even when Evelyn sat right beside him, women would take the time to stop and chat flirtatiously with him. Her handsome husband never seemed to catch it, but it was all very apparent to Evelyn. After hours of driving on the road, Evelyn pulled into her garage and saw that her husband's pickup was gone. That was unusual and unexpected. The least her husband could do was be home to greet her after she had had such a grueling business conference and the long drive home. As she walked into the house, Evelyn entered an empty house. In the master bedroom, the cause she couldn't quite place, but a queasy feeling began to take root deep in her gut. It was almost dinner time, and no one was home. The next day was Thursday, which meant Jasper had work and Alice had school. That indicated they should be home soon, so Evelyn unpacked her bag before taking a shower. While Evelyn was trying to figure out why Jasper and Alice didn't show up without explanation, she remembered that her phone was turned off. It had been turned off since dinner the night before. She drove home in such a daze, never once wondering why nobody called her. Jasper might be mad at her. Because she never called to thank him for the string of pearls, she had forgotten all about him as Edward had stoked her fires the previous evening. As she toweled her hair dry, she flicked her phone on. Jasper had once again congratulated himself on his simple but brilliant plan to please and surprise his wife. He had known of her scheduled conference in Atlanta for months. Evelyn attended them twice a year. As fate would have it, this conference was scheduled to fall on his 20th wedding anniversary. A few weeks earlier, Jasper had been approached about building a large vacation home for a family from Atlanta. Once the business part of his meeting was complete and Jasper felt comfortable with the client, Boyd Drake, he brought up an idea that had just recently formed in his head. "Boyd, my wife will be in town on the 10th of next month for a conference held downtown Atlanta. The date just so happens to be our anniversary, and I wanted to surprise her with a nice dinner at a good restaurant somewhere close to her hotel. To top it off, I bought a pearl necklace, which I'd like to see delivered to her at the table as she eats dinner." My daughter's the one to set that up for you, said Boyd. She's in college now and knows all the good places in the city. She could make sure the necklace made it into your wife's hands. It sounds like you plan on getting lucky when your wife gets back home. Why don't you just drive up to Atlanta with her and deliver it yourself? I've offered in the past, but Evelyn insists she's too busy to spend time with me. She'll have a late dinner and get back to her hotel as soon as she can, so she's rested for the next day. I have obligations here, and driving that far just to be ignored seems a bit foolish, reasoned Jasper. I just had another idea, added Jasper. Suppose I buy your daughter and a friend of her choosing dinner if she'd be willing to sit at a table close to Evelyn's and send me real-time video on Facebook. I'd love to see Evelyn's surprised look. When she opens the box with a necklace, I'll give you my daughter's number and you can call or text her and set it up, replied Boyd. I'm sure she'd be happy to help pull this off. Jasper had a number of pizzas delivered to his house for the party he was hosting to celebrate his 20th anniversary. He had invited his parents, Evelyn's parents, her brother and sister-in-law, as well as Evelyn's younger divorced sister. They were all anticipating watching Evelyn in real time as he was now going to surprise her with the anniversary present. Jasper's daughter, Alice, aged 16, was there with a couple of her girlfriends. Jasper had it all set so that they could watch the video on the big screen. Boyd's daughter is going to sit as close to Evelyn as she can without making her suspicious. She'll be sending video to me on Facebook Live. She's paid a server to deliver the wrapped gift after Evelyn and her co-worker, Sue, order their meals. We'll see Evelyn's reaction in real time. This is going to be the best anniversary possible, considering we're so far apart, explained Jasper with a happy smile. I have things set so we won't transmit any audio, so feel free to make comments, including what a great idea I had. Who's the guy with Mom? Alice asked as Evelyn came into view, holding hands with a good-looking younger man. Didn't you say she'd be on with Sue? I don't know who he is, admitted Jasper. He seems like a pretty good friend. Her father merely harped and frowned upon the statement that Jasper had given out as the couple sat down. Everybody who had gathered around the TV in Jasper's house clearly heard the conversation. It sure was nice of your husband to buy our dinner tonight, said the stranger with a chuckle. I'll do my best to make this anniversary a memorable one, at least for you. It'll be even better than your honeymoon. You'd better order the steak, said Evelyn, smiling. You're going to need your strength. My honeymoon was epic. Really, said the man. Did you have a lover in the wings back then, or did your husband actually manage to ring your chimes? Jasper did brilliantly. Thank you for asking, said Evelyn quickly. You're the only lover I've had in the last 20 years, except for Jasper, of course. Lucky for me, he started slowing down, the man replied with a chuckle. The good news is tonight you'll have a far better 20th anniversary than most women have. I'll make certain of that. Perhaps we have seen enough, Evelyn's sister ventured nervously. This isn't at all fair. Evelyn has no idea we're watching and listening. Why don't you turn it off, Jasper? We wouldn't want to miss her reaction when she gets the necklace, would we? Asked a determined but very red-faced Jasper. We'll watch this train wreck a little longer. As the couple ordered, everyone heard Evelyn refer to her companion as Edward. When the server left with the menus, another server appeared with a nicely wrapped package. Look, Jasper must have had an anniversary gift delivered here to the restaurant, exclaimed Evelyn in delight as she began tearing the wrapping from the package. Isn't it beautiful? Evelyn asked, all bright-eyed, as she looked at the string of pearls. Would you hook it for me? Yes. Just lean back toward me, instructed Edward as he carefully fastened the necklace. When he was done, an older woman sitting at a nearby table said, Your husband is so romantic. You're lucky to have such a handsome man. Right on both points, agreed Edward, smiling. She has a romantic husband and a good-looking boyfriend. Evelyn glared at Edward while the older women laughed at his comment. I gave you a pearl necklace last night that I personally consider to look so much better on you than this one, Edward said playfully, bending down to peck Evelyn on the lips. That's the difference between a husband and a lover, Evelyn beamed with a tortured smile. Husbands give us jewelry. Lovers give us pleasures. I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore, said a pretty red-haired girl who must have been Boyd's daughter, already tucking her phone into place. I should have stopped sooner, but I was so shocked. I was in shock. I'm so sorry it turned out like this. I'll make sure to erase everything off my phone. I have to go now. The TV went
It's getting
blank,
late. We'd better
and
leave
everyone
now.
just sat
We'll see
there
you tomorrow
in
at
stunned
school.
silence.
If I even
One
go,
of Alice's friends
replied
was the
Alice.
first to break the ice.
Would it be okay if I went home with my friends, Dad?
I feel like I need to be with them right now. All right, sweetheart, I understand. We'll talk later. Drive carefully, girls, Jasper had to virtually whisper. His throat was that dry. I don't know what to say, began Evelyn's mother. I think we must have taken a wrong impression about things. Evelyn loves you, Jasper, and she would give her life for Alice. Don't do anything rash. Jasper's other guests pretty much reiterated those sentiments as they quietly discussed the situation. After a few more minutes of quiet discussion, Jasper made a decision. I have a lot to think about, all. Please find your way out and give me some time to be by myself and sort through my choices. When everyone had gone, Jasper hauled out his suitcases and started packing. Evelyn was caught off guard by the number of messages she had received and the calls she had missed since turning off her phone the previous evening. Her eyes skimmed down her text messages, her heart sinking. Her sister and mother wanted to know who was this Edward and why was she so chummy with him. They said she had broken Jasper's heart, and Alice was really upset too. Her mom and sister had texted her no less than a dozen times each. Evelyn scrolled through her messages to see if she had anything from Jasper and found that she did not. How did her family discover the existence of Edward, and precisely how much had they learned? Where were Jasper and Alice, and more importantly, how was she to dig herself out of the hole she found herself in? She needed to find out with certainty what exactly Jasper knew and what he just suspected. Evelyn realized she had to speak to her family members to determine just how bad her situation was. Mom, it's me. I forgot I'd turned my phone off last night. Evelyn began as calmly as she could. I see you've been trying to reach me. Is anything wrong? Only if you think losing your husband, alienating and embarrassing your daughter, shaming your parents, and acting like a complete cheater might create some problems down the road. I suppose it doesn't bother you very much, or you wouldn't have been enjoying a damn pearl necklace from your boyfriend, her mother ranted. Jasper gave me a string of pearls for our anniversary, Evelyn argued. Why should that anger you? Your father and I have seen enough old porn movies to know what your young man meant when he referred to you wearing his pearl necklace, a not-so-straight-laced mother revealed to Evelyn. Mom, what made you think I'd do anything like that? Why do you think I have a boyfriend? Evelyn's fear drove a knot in her stomach. Don't play games with me. I'm not stupid, her mother snarled. Jasper had a bunch of us over to watch you open his 20th anniversary gift at the restaurant. He made a reservation for you and a co-worker. I think her name was supposed to be Sue. We saw the whole sordid thing. Your husband treats you like a queen and you disrespect him. Husbands give jewelry while lovers give pleasures pretty well summed everything up. You heard me say that, asked the shocked Evelyn. How is that possible? Jasper had some friend's daughter do some kind of live broadcast with her phone. He wanted us to see how happy you would be with his gift. Then we were all going to call and wish you a happy anniversary, related her mother sadly. It looks like it may be your last anniversary, at least with Jasper. Maybe you and lover boy will get together again after everything settles down. Mom, you know I love Jasper. That other guy doesn't mean anything to me. It was just something to pass the time. Those conferences get boring, Evelyn insisted. Oh, that makes all the difference, said her mom dryly. Jasper's going to feel so much better knowing his wife isn't a round-heeled cheater. She was just bored. I guess you left your crossword puzzle at home. Calling me names isn't helpful, Mom. How am I going to convince Jasper he's the only man I love? You haven't even convinced me, said her mother. So I'd say you have your work cut out for you. Watching you with that man was the worst thing I've ever seen. I really doubt Jasper found it any easier. After talking to her mother, Evelyn considered her situation. Her whole family had seen and heard everything she and Edward had discussed at dinner the night before. Recalling her conversation with Edward at dinner, as she thought it over, Evelyn realized how bad her situation was. She decided to call Alice. "Alice, where are you?" Evelyn asked when Alice answered her phone. "I'm with Morgan. She's been trying to console me over my family breaking up," replied Evelyn's daughter. "We are not separating. Please come home now and we will discuss it." "Where is your father?" asked a tentative Evelyn. "He moved up to the lake cottage," Alice replied. "I don't think he wants to see you. He was so happy last night when he asked everyone over to watch you open your gift. You pretty much ripped his heart out when you showed up with a lover instead of Sue." "Please come home now," repeated Evelyn as she tried to think of something she could say to Jasper to gain his forgiveness. Once she had finished talking with Alice, Evelyn started checking out the house. She saw immediately that Jasper's laptop and some file cabinets were missing from the study. His bedroom closet was completely cleaned out. It was as bare as Mother Hubbard's cupboard. Evelyn fought back tears as she wandered aimlessly around the house, noticing what was missing. Jasper had not taken any pictures that included her in them. That fact seemed especially damning. Looking for something to take her mind off her faltering marriage, Evelyn began preparing dinner for Alice. By the time Alice came through the door, she had managed to put together a small meal. Alice was sulky and only spoke to Evelyn when she was asked a direct question. Even then, Alice kept her responses as brief as possible. Evelyn admitted to herself that her daughter had good reason to be pissed at her, but she hoped the animosity would at least diminish over time, if not disappear totally. The next morning at sunup, Evelyn walked into their lake cabin to find Jasper uncomfortably hunched up and passed out on the small sofa, with a number of empty beer cans scattered around the floor. "Jasper, honey, we need to talk. Can you wake up, please?" Jasper slowly opened his eyes and grumbled. He stood slowly and made his way to the bathroom without uttering a word. Evelyn opted to make some coffee while waiting for her husband to get back. After a few minutes, a freshly showered Jasper came back into the kitchen as Evelyn placed a mug of coffee in front of him. Evelyn hoped Jasper would begin the difficult conversation, but that hope soon died. It was apparent he had no intention of starting the discussion. "Jasper, I am so sorry about what happened. I love the pearls. It was such a wonderful gift, one which I shall always treasure. I'm just so sorry that I didn't know you were broadcasting all that to the family. It would have been nice if you could have warned me about that." "You," was all Jasper managed in the way of reply, as he fumed over Evelyn's effort to cast him as the offender. Evelyn was taken aback, and her feelings were hurt by Jasper's response. All these years together. He had never spoken to her in a disrespectful way, the sure sign of pain brought on to him by her. "That's not helpful," replied Evelyn impatiently. "Tell me what I need to do to make this right. You're the only man I've ever loved. That hasn't changed. We can work through this together. Help me out here." "What precisely is the problem you want to work through?" asked Jasper calmly. "Is the problem that I surprised you with an anniversary gift in a nice restaurant where I made reservations for you and a friend? Is the problem that I had a client's daughter agree to send a real-time video of your reaction? Is the problem that I mistakenly thought it was a gift you'd like? Explain to me what the problem is, so I know just what the hell you're talking about." You know what the problem is," persisted Evelyn. "You saw me with Edward last night at the restaurant. I know you have dinner with other people now and then. Why do you think that's a problem?" Jasper asked. "You know damn well why it's a problem. I told you I was going to dinner with Sue, but I actually went with Edward. You overheard our conversation and found out we've been sleeping together. That's the problem we need to work on." Just so we're clear, is the problem that I and your whole family overheard you having this conversation? Or is it that you've been in love with other men? My behavior is the problem, admitted the red-faced Evelyn, as she realized going on the offensive wouldn't work for her in her current situation. You were just trying to be nice to me on our anniversary. You didn't do anything wrong. All right, we're getting somewhere. Now tell me why you've been fooling around on me, how long you've been fooling around, and with how many men you've been fooling around, Jasper insisted. Is Alice my biological daughter? Is there a possibility that the mailman fathered her? There's no need to be vulgar or insulting, said a shell-shocked Evelyn. Of course Alice is your daughter. Edward is the only lover I've had since before we started dating. Your comment about how many men have I had and the mailman being Alice's father was just plain cruel. I'm having some trouble following your logic here, countered Jasper. You say you're a cheating cheater, but you'd have me draw the line at how big a cheater you are. You want me to be polite and understanding, not to mention gullible, when you tell me you're a one-man cheater, proud of the fact you haven't cheated on me very often. By the way, how long have you been with Slick Edward, and how often? You forgot to mention those salient facts when you were denying the title of Town Bicycle. This was the third conference we've slept together, admitted a teary-eyed Evelyn, as she finally began to sense the depth of Jasper's anger and humiliation. Other than you, he's the only man I've been with since we got married 20 years ago. That would be 2 nights together for each of the 3 conferences, said Jasper. Did you ever fool around with him anywhere else? No! Exclaimed Evelyn. It was 6 times altogether, and I am truly sorry for that. I have to apologize to you. You're going to tell me a young stud like Edward was only able to get it up once a night with a fox like you? Jasper asked. He never slept with you more than once in a night? What difference does that make? An exasperated Evelyn asked. We probably did it 3 times each night. Now for the big question, announced Jasper. Why did you love another man? Was love with me so unrewarding, so mundane, so pathetic you needed to find a younger, better-hung lover? Of course not. I was bored, and he pursued me relentlessly. I was weak. It was never about you or our love life. It was about my vanity, maybe some sort of midlife crisis. He means nothing to me, I swear it. I see. You had love with a man who meant nothing to you, Jasper repeated. Have you loved Mr. Jenkins? The guy who lives down the street and wears those ridiculous shirts? Asked a very puzzled Evelyn. Of course not. I hardly know him, and I find him repulsive. So he means nothing to you? Continued Jasper. You just told me you love men you don't love and who mean nothing to you. Jenkins fits that description, so why don't you love him? I didn't say that I slept with every man who means nothing to me, a distraught Evelyn explained. I slept with Edward because he was good-looking, suave, and successful. He pursued me. You're telling me you'll only spread your legs for good-looking, successful men who chase after you. Other than a few guys like that, you're a faithful wife. If you don't love the men you love, doesn't it follow that you don't love me? No. I'm telling you I made a terrible mistake, and it will never happen again, Evelyn said, her voice quivering. I love you, but not Edward. How do I know that? Jasper said softly. You promised to be faithful to me at our wedding and a few other times over the years. You are a beautiful woman. Good-looking, successful men will always be pursuing you. I can't trust you. I can't even give you the great love you seem to enjoy so much. Never feel that way, Jasper. I cherish love with you. It's special, and it makes me feel loved, she responded with a soft smile. What did Edward make you feel that you kept going back to him? Jasper asked softly. Dirty, used, different than a mother or a wife. It was the wrongness that sucked me in. It wasn't love. I have a lot to consider. You stand here telling me you love me and not him, but yet you gave him pleasure. It is pretty hard for me to accept that you could do so much more for a man who means nothing to you than for a man you love, Jasper reasoned. It wasn't like that. He never talked about you. I would have never allowed it, insisted Evelyn. You seem to forget that I heard a few minutes of your conversation. He badmouthed me several times, and you went along with it. Remember how I'm slowing down? He gave you a better 20th anniversary than most wives ever get. You never disagreed, did you? Why are we even bothering wasting our time here? Jasper asked suddenly. You found someone new. I accept that. It seems like you should, too. Why pretend you want to stay married? It's pretty damn obvious you didn't like being my wife, and we won't even talk about the bad love. You're beautiful, successful, and intelligent while I bring nothing to the table. It was only a matter of time before you looked for something better. Congratulations on finding it. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. Jasper, we cannot let this discussion end so badly. We have to talk it out and find a way back, Evelyn pleaded tearfully. You can have your lawyer speak to my lawyer. We're done, Evelyn. I'm going to divorce you. You've left me no choice. Evelyn went to work that day, only to have an irate suit corner her by the break room. Why was Jasper asking me about going with you to Atlanta for that conference? You know full well I stopped going to those after you decided to spend nights with that Romeo from the Chicago office. I don't want you using me as a cover for your cheating. Jasper called you? What did you tell him? Evelyn asked despondently. The truth. I haven't been to the last two conferences. I got the impression you told him we were sharing a room and spending time at the conference together, Sue complained. I don't appreciate being used like that. It won't be a problem again. Jasper found out this trip. I think he's going to divorce me, confessed Evelyn. What else would you expect? Sue asked. No good man can put up with being treated like this. I was too stupid and selfish to even consider what could happen if Jasper found out, said Evelyn straightforwardly. He has left. Don't you think you made your choice when you slept with a slimy bastard from Chicago? Asked Sue in a gentler tone. I'm sorry you lost Jasper, but I warned you it would happen if you kept it up. I wasn't the one who told him if that's what you're thinking. I know that, Sue. I owe you an apology. I have abused your friendship. I wish I'd listened to you, but I was so smart and entitled. I am not worth a man like Jasper. Jasper took the day off from work after he discovered Evelyn's deceitful behavior and was adamant he would move all of his belongings to his lake house before Evelyn made it home. He had no interest in listening to her reasons or excuses for cheating. When he thought of life without Evelyn, he could feel himself being overcome with sickness in his stomach. But he knew that he could never forgive her cold-hearted disregard for his feelings and her ambivalence toward fidelity and respect. Her surprise visit the next morning had only served to reveal the huge emotional chasm that divided them. She had said nothing by which he could forgive her for her infidelity. He made an appointment with a lawyer for the next afternoon. He was just about to close the office and head home to prepare for his meeting with the divorce lawyer the next day when he received an alert to an email. It was from Evelyn. He questioned if he wanted to read or even delete it. After a conversation in his mind, he opened the email. She had written about the issue at hand in her straightforward manner. He didn't feel anything other than despondency as he read her missive. Jasper, I know I have really messed up this time. I was stupid enough to think that you would never find out, so my actions would never hurt you. I was wrong. Lying and cheating will destroy a marriage, even if one partner is unaware that it's happening. You deserve so much better. I have never wanted anything in my life as much as I want for you to forgive me, but I will not argue anything you do concerning our marriage. I threw away the right to have any say in your decision. I love you and wish you only the best. You are a fine man, husband, and father. This is totally on me. I accept that truth, although I hate that I did this to us. You may not believe it, but I love you and I always will. Evelyn. Jasper fought the tears reading Evelyn's admission and plea for forgiveness. It was like her to take the blame for what she had done once she had a chance to reflect on the situation. She was a strong-willed woman who expected nothing but the best from others, herself included. He felt empty and could see no reason to respond to the email. He had nothing left to say. Following the morning that Evelyn had gone to see him at the lake cabin, Alice was to become her only source of information regarding Jasper. That Friday afternoon, Alice called Evelyn to let her know she would be going to her father's cabin for the weekend. Jasper would bring her back home Sunday evening. It dawned on Evelyn that this was how her life was going to be from here on out. She spent one miserable weekend thinking about how she had totally screwed up her life, and now she had no idea how she could possibly fix it, if it was even fixable. Had she totally destroyed her once happy marriage? Alice looked pretty somber when she got back home on Sunday evening. Dad's decided to get a divorce. He can't live with someone who's lost all respect for him. I saw him cry a few times this weekend. I'd never seen that before in my whole life. Do you have any idea how much you hurt him? I guess your boyfriend must be a lot better than Dad. He's not my boyfriend, and he's not a patch on your father, responded a visibly shaking Evelyn. It was a huge mistake, and I deeply regret it. Your father is the best man I've ever known. Forgive both Dad and me for being skeptical, Alice shot back. But that wasn't the first time you slept with that scumbag, was it? You have been cheating on us for years, haven't you? Evelyn knew it was time she stopped lying to her family. I slept with him at the 2 conferences before this last one. It was wrong, and I'm sorry. It was wrong? That is quite an understatement, isn't it, Mother? Alice pressed furiously. You betrayed Daddy in the worst possible way. Didn't you take some kind of oath to be faithful when you married him? Did you cross your fingers so that it wouldn't count? I know you're angry with me, but not as angry as I am. Your father is a wonderful man, and he's been a great dad, you know that. And what I did doesn't mean I think less of him. I was so foolish, Evelyn said sadly. Whatever, exclaimed Alice, heading off to her room. As days went by, a new normal crept into Evelyn's life. She and Alice were barely civil with one another anymore. Work became her lifeline. Everything remained normal there, except for Sue, who seemed cold towards her. She attended Alice's school events, but usually sat alone, unless her mother went along. It was the only time she saw Jasper. He always sat as far from her as he reasonably could, and other parents soon took his cue. It wasn't long before it was common knowledge they were getting divorced. It also wasn't beyond Evelyn to overhear the lewd comments and suggestions fathers, both single and married, made. The word about Evelyn's betrayal had been well and truly spread. Jasper threw himself into his business. That was the bright side of the whole drama. The irony was that Evelyn would be getting half of the business. His lawyer had proposed a few tactics that would have reduced Evelyn's share of the business, but Jasper had refused to listen. Evelyn worked with me and even provided a share of her salary to keep us afloat in the early days when we took over the family business, Jasper insisted. If it hadn't been for her, there'd be nothing to divide up. I'm not going to deny the facts. It was when her lawyer explained to her how Jasper was conceding half his ownership of the business to her that Evelyn was genuinely surprised. His best friend, Dan, had bought into the company many years ago when Jasper was going through a cash flow crisis. Dan was a silent partner who owned 1/3 of the company. Jasper conceding half of their shared ownership to Evelyn left him in a precarious position because now he owned and controlled only 1/3 of the business. Tell Jasper this is too much, Evelyn instructed her lawyer. He's the one who gave the business all of his time and energy. If he insists on giving me a share, tell him I'll settle for 1/10 of what we own. He'll retain control without any possible dispute. Jasper was nothing if not stubborn. By the time the snow had melted the following spring, Evelyn was once again a single woman and a third owner in Keller Enterprises. She hadn't been able to get Jasper to even speak with her over the phone. He had shut her completely out of his life. Alice informed Evelyn that she planned to spend the summer between her junior and senior year in high school at the lake cabin with her father. Evelyn recognized this as still another attempt by Alice to punish her, but she acknowledged that she had merited her daughter's disdain. For his part, Jasper was thrilled. Plans were drawn up to nearly double the size of the cabin. Owning a construction company made it relatively easy to complete the construction by the end of July. It was now a 3-bedroom lake home. Each bedroom had its own bath and a good view of the lake. It was a thoroughly modernized and comfortable home. The first weekend in August, Jasper held an open house for his friends and neighbors at the lake. All of Alice's friends were invited, and one of them brought an older cousin. Jasper couldn't help but notice that she was a striking blonde, one who filled out her fairly modest 2-piece bathing suit very well. As the day wore on, Jasper found the young woman near him much of the time. She laughed at his jokes and flirted with him at every opportunity. "So, Dad, you're trying to get in Kylie's little bikini bottoms, huh?" Alice asked at one point when the two found themselves alone in the kitchen. "Of course not," protested Jasper. "She can't be more than 25, and I haven't decided to start dating." "She's 27 and seems pretty interested in you," Alice responded with a knowing smile. "She's been asking how long you've been single, how old you are, what you do for a living, all the stuff women want to know about potential husbands." "I just met her today," replied Jasper. "Don't even think about bringing up the word marriage to me. I tried it once, and that was enough. I'm not saying anything else other than she appears to be interested. I wouldn't mind you dating her at all. She is nice, and you do need someone to help you move on from Mom. As far as I can tell, Kylie isn't in any rush to get married. I think she is focusing on her career right now. That doesn't mean she wouldn't appreciate some male companionship." "Thanks for enlightening me," Jasper said humorously to his daughter. "That girl is definitely too gorgeous to be interested in an old man like me, but thanks for the vote of confidence. I appreciate your faith in me." Evelyn's company occupied the top 2 floors of an office building in the business district. There was a very popular Italian bistro on the end of the block. She generally had lunch there every Thursday with several of her friends from work. Because she kept an informal lunch schedule, she often saw the same people eating lunch at the same time. Evelyn and her workmates became friendly with employees of several other companies located in her building. The afternoon of the accident, there had been an unusually large crowd in the bistro, and Evelyn's party had not been able to find a table. One of the women at the second-floor Benson Advertising asked Evelyn's party to join them at the large table, an invitation they promptly accepted. Once everyone gave their first names in the way of an introduction, the conversation began. One of the women with the advertising group was especially attractive and very friendly. Evelyn found herself enjoying the good humor of the younger woman. She smiled as the other ladies began teasing the woman. "We don't all have a rich boyfriend with a big house on Lake Henry," the women teased, apparently knowing Evelyn as Mary. "It must be nice waking up with the morning sun reflecting off the lake." "It is," agreed the younger woman. "Especially with a good-looking guy spooning and gently holding me. It's a real chore getting out of bed." "If he's the guy who picked you up after work on Thursday, I can see why it would be a challenge," said another woman. "He looked a little older than you, but seemed to be in good shape. He had all his hair and was pretty easy on the eye." "Jasper." "All of that and more," the young woman said with a broad smile. "He's a really nice guy. And a very good lover." Immediately, her friend asked the question Evelyn didn't want to even consider. "You weren't talking about Jasper Kell, are you?" "Do you know Jasper?" asked the young beauty before adding, "You have to admit he's a good-looking guy." "He's a great guy, but he used to be Evelyn's husband," her co-worker explained. "I think we should change the subject." "Don't be so melodramatic," Evelyn chided, leaning forward and extending her hand to the young woman. "I'm Evelyn Keller. I didn't quite catch your name." "Kylie Lawson." "Jasper said his ex-wife was beautiful, but I thought he was probably blinded by love," Kylie admitted. "It turns out he didn't do you justice. I hope you aren't upset that I'm living with Jasper now." "I certainly can't blame you, or him for that matter," answered Evelyn truthfully. "You're a lovely young woman with an amazing figure. I can easily see why Jasper would be attracted to you. I do wonder why Alice never said anything about you to me. I can't speak for Alice, except to say you've done a wonderful job raising your daughter. She's very intelligent and thoughtful, as well as beautiful like her mother. I enjoy when she visits us," concluded Kylie. That evening, Evelyn grilled Alice as they sat down to dinner. "Why didn't you let me know that your father had a beautiful girlfriend move in with him? That's something I might have been interested in." "Honestly, Mom, I didn't want to hurt your feelings. I know how you feel about Dad," Alice responded. "I'm still upset that you cheated on him, but I don't want to make you miserable because of your lousy choices. Kylie is really good for Dad. He finally seems happy again." "This may come as a shock, but I am glad to hear Jasper is happy. He is a great man and should be with someone who loves him, even if it is not me," Evelyn said. "I don't think she loves Dad, but she likes him a lot. She's made it plain she's putting her career first these next few years. She wants to make it big in marketing." "Are you going to date now, Mom?" "Do you keep in contact with your boyfriend from those conferences? Do you think that you may get together with him?" asked Alice. "Edward? He's not the kind of man I'd look for in a relationship," confessed Evelyn. "He's shallow, somewhat crude, selfish, and conceited. I never thought of him as more than a diversion. It turned out he diverted my life into hell. Although I knew what I was doing, I shouldn't blame him for my weakness." "Are you seeing anyone?" Alice asked. "You are still pretty. I've noticed how some of the fathers and teachers look at you and go out of their way to be nice to you at my school events. Honestly, I think Jasper ruined me for other men," replied Evelyn sadly. "The reason for our divorce is known by most of the people in the area. It makes women sympathize with your father, while men think of me as an easy score. I suppose I was easy for Edward, but I won't be making that mistake again." "I just don't understand how you could have cheated on Dad when you love him so much," Alice wondered. "He's always treated you with love and respect. What went wrong?" "That is a question I've been asking myself," admitted Evelyn. "I think I started to take your father for granted. I knew that he loved me, and I was very secure with that love. It somehow translated into trying another man, maybe because I knew that I had a safety net at home. Jasper was my anchor. He was always there for me. I stupidly assumed he always would be. I could stray a little without him knowing and still have my devoted husband at home. I pray you find a man like Jasper when you're ready for a family and use my experience as a cautionary tale. Never take more than you give in a relationship. Be loyal, faithful, and honest. If you find yourself considering anything which could harm your relationship, discuss it with him. I've shown you what happens when you lie and cheat." She would run into Kylie during lunchtime every now and then. Evelyn was surprised at how much she liked the woman. She also embarrassed herself at how eager she was to hear any news regarding Jasper. Alice was a little tight-lipped about her father. With Evelyn being his daughter, she wouldn't know some of the more personal aspects of his life. Kylie, on the other hand, was quite willing to discuss Jasper with her friends. "Evelyn, it's pretty obvious that you still love Jasper," observed Kylie one day, as the two women sat eating lunch. "He never says anything bad about you, but it's clear as the sun is yellow you hurt him bad. I'm not here to judge you, but I have to tell you, I'd never cheat when I am in a relationship. I find it hard to believe that you did. Everything I see and hear from you indicates you love and respect him. I would encourage you to remember that when the flame of passion has dwindled and when everything seems so routine." Evelyn replied, "I lost my way, and I paid the price." Love isn't always wild love and great vacations. Sometimes it's trying to decide when to have a septic pumped or what color you should paint a house. It becomes mundane, but that's normal. Jasper is an honest businessman, a considerate, loyal friend, and a great father. I'll always love him, but I betrayed him in the worst way a wife can. I've learned from it. I guess I'm too late smart. Last night I told Jasper I was accepting a position in Seattle, and I'll be leaving in 2 weeks. It's a great opportunity for me. I told him from the start that I was placing my career first, but I could tell my news upset him, revealed Kylie. I'm telling you this so that you'll know what he's going through and maybe help him if he gets depressed. He really is a great guy. He's just not my forever guy. He will miss you a great deal. Jasper doesn't do things on a whim. When he asked you to live with him, that must have meant he thought very highly of you as a person, your beauty notwithstanding. That said, he is a strong man. I tested that strength, but he survived. He actually upgraded, Evelyn said with a small grin. He'll miss you, but he's a great catch, and I doubt his bed will be empty very long. Yeah, that's why I'm giving you advanced knowledge, Kylie replied with a smile of her own. What you do with the information is up to you. It wasn't until a week later that Jasper's best friend and silent partner, Dan, asked Evelyn to meet him for lunch at the bistro. The dining area was crowded, but they found a small table off to the side. After exchanging the usual greetings and formalities, Dan got down to the reason for his request to meet with Evelyn. But they found a small table off to the side. After exchanging the usual greetings and formalities, Dan got down to the reason for his request to meet with Evelyn. You know that tract of land Jasper bought on Route 21, not far from the river. I have a buyer willing to pay almost $2 million for it. Jasper bought it for a song. The profit would be huge. Your third would be well over $500,000. Jasper said the land was a steal and would be worth a lot one day. Is he going to sell it? Asked Evelyn curiously, wondering how she figured into the discussion. That's the problem, replied Dan. He says he thinks it'll be worth more to the company if he offers it for a long-term lease. He'd have it written into the contract that his company would build the structure the lessee required for its business. That sounds like Jasper, grinned Evelyn to herself, reflecting on how businesslike he had always been. He's obviously done the math, and his proposal will make more money over the long run. What's the problem? I think we should take the quick profit and sell the land. Planning 10 and 15 years ahead is great, but I'd like to have the money now. You own a third of the company, I own a third. Together we could insist Jasper accept the offer and then pay us our share of the profits. Jasper wouldn't be hurt. Hell, he'd get $500,000 cash to soothe any ruffled feathers. Anger mounted in her body as Evelyn listened to Dan make his pitch. You're asking me to betray Jasper's trust? You think the money means more to me than Jasper's ruffled feathers, as you call them? Let me tell you something. Jasper would view this as a complete and utter betrayal by his wife and best friend. It would be the worst thing you could possibly do to him, worse than his wife loving some young buck at a conference. You're his ex-wife for a reason. You've already betrayed him. He divorced your cheating ass. This is a chance to get a little payback and a nice chunk of change at the same time, Dan reasoned. That loyal wife act won't fly. We both know that description doesn't fit you. I did betray Jasper, I admit it, responded Evelyn in a controlled fury. I was stupid and selfish, but I never meant to hurt him. He's better than both of us and deserves far better business partners than either of us will ever be. That said, I will never betray him again. I'd rather lose my last penny than hurt Jasper like this. I proved I was a lousy wife, and you've just proven yourself to be a piss-poor friend and partner. Jasper will control my share of the company as long as I draw breath. In fact, I'll have a new will drawn up to be certain Jasper gets my share when I die. You should know better than to question his business acumen. He's forgotten more than you'll ever know, said Evelyn, her anger rising as she stood and placed a bill on the table to cover her mostly uneaten lunch. Then she fixed Dan with a stare. Don't even think about stealing that too. It wasn't until nearly a month later that Evelyn answered her doorbell and found Jasper standing on her stoop. She was very surprised. Jasper had studiously avoided her since the morning after she had returned from her ill-fated conference. Jasper, come in. Is everything okay? Alice just left a few minutes ago if you're looking for her, Evelyn said, as she could not help but marvel at how flustered being with Jasper now made her. I came to talk to you if you have time. Jasper began as he stepped inside what had been his home for over 15 years. "Could you spare a couple of minutes? I could try another time if you're busy." "I'm not busy," Evelyn responded quickly. "I just made some coffee. Why don't we sit in the kitchen?" "I appreciate you seeing me on such short notice," said Jasper as he lifted his coffee mug. "You always made great coffee." "When we first married, I didn't even know how to make coffee," Evelyn replied with a laugh. "It took some time for me to get it right." "I didn't marry you for the coffee," replied Jasper. "You had other attributes I found much more appealing." "I never heard you call them attributes before," said Evelyn, still smiling. "I did hear you refer to them as Smith and Wesson a few times." "Yeah, you brought the big guns out, and I had no resistance against you," Jasper said. "Kylie must have had you wrapped around her finger, or some body part," Evelyn observed, "since she packed some serious heat." "I appreciate the way you treated Kylie. She thinks you are a very special person. Her impression of you is one of the reasons I am here. One of her friends overheard you and Dan at lunch a couple of weeks ago. Kylie told me about it before she headed for the left coast. She thought your loyalty and integrity were exceptional. I must concur. After the way I treated you during the divorce, you still turned Dan down flat. A lot of women who had been so quickly divorced by their husband would have wanted revenge, or at least payback. I would never do that to you, Jasper. I know very well how much hard work you put into your projects and what they mean to you. And I also know you'll make that land yield a much better return than Dan was looking for. He was foolish to doubt you," concluded Evelyn. "I appreciate your vote of confidence. Kylie helped me to accept that you're my partner, even though I've been running the business as if it's all mine. I need to allow you the opportunity to express your opinion and to tell me how you'd like to proceed," said Jasper. "If you want to sell that property and split the profits on it, I'll go along with it." "Dan's been after me to sell it," said Jasper. "I think he's strapped for cash. He feels we should each be able to draw $500,000 out of the business without hamstringing it. If we sold that land, would you want that too?" "I think you probably have plans for that property, which would net the company a nice profit and community goodwill," replied Evelyn with obvious pride. "You never looked for a quick buck. You always wanted to improve the area while making a good living. You have something planned for that tract, don't you?" "I've been negotiating a long-term lease with General Hospital to build an emergency care complex on the land," Jasper confessed. "It wouldn't be as profitable as the luxury condo project the company Dan is pushing to build, but it would still turn a nice profit, and we'd also have the contract to build it. That would create jobs as well as goodwill." "I guess it would be something like that," replied Evelyn, a little smugly. "You're a good businessman, but you're also invested in the community. That separates you from men like Dan. Dan feels it would be better to get the quick profit." "I don't agree with that line of thought. I understand he came to you to pitch his ideas, and you turned him cold. I implicitly trust you, Jasper. You have never once given me a reason not to trust you." "I'll back your decisions regarding the business to the hilt," promised Evelyn. "I know that sounds strange when you already know you can't trust me, but it is the truth. I've been thinking about how Dan has been trying to interfere in your business. It's occurred to me that we should buy him out. If he's cash poor, he'll probably listen to a reasonable offer. He'd be happy, and you'd be free to run your business the way you see fit," reasoned Evelyn. "I thought of that, but I have no capital to do it," admitted Jasper. "We could sell this house," suggested Evelyn. "I can rent a nice 2-bedroom apartment for Alice and me. We've built a lot of equity up over the years. The house is almost paid for, and you made some major improvements. It would bring enough for us to be able to buy out Dan." "This is your house now that we're divorced. You'd be willing to sell it, put that money into the business?" an astounded Jasper asked. "I don't know how soon I'll make the deal for the urgent care center. I can't guarantee you'll get your money back soon, or even that you'll get it back at all." "Do I look worried?" teased Evelyn. "Remember, I was married to you for 20 years. You'll make it back with interest. If for some reason you don't, that's okay. I owe you, Jasper. The money could never compensate for my disrespect, but it will get Dan out of your hair." I'll go along with it if you'll come and live at the lake house with Alice and me, Jasper blurted before quickly adding. You'll have your own room with its own bath. It really turned out nice. I don't think that would work, Evelyn replied sadly. There's the privacy issue, not to mention dating and all the drama that would create for you. I am sorry. I just didn't think about your social life, apologized Jasper. Of course, you wouldn't want to bring a date back to the house if the ex-husband was living there. And of all people, Edward, that would be a little awkward. I don't date and have no intention of starting, Evelyn replied. I stopped going to the conferences and haven't spoken to Edward since that disastrous trip. You're the one who would be inconvenienced. No woman would want to spend the night with you when your ex is sleeping in the next room. Finding a woman willing to move in with you would be extremely unlikely with me there. Although I wouldn't rule it out. I've seen how women fall all over you. I divorced you because you were sleeping with that guy. Then I went and moved Kylie in with me. My conduct wasn't the best example for Alice, was it? Jasper asked rhetorically. My only defense is that I was depressed and lonely. Another man had taken my wife from me, and my self-confidence was pretty low. Kylie was able to restore it for me. I'm sorry I damaged your self-esteem. I wish it had never happened. But I certainly don't blame you for taking up with Kylie. She's a lovely woman. You're a single man and can enter into any relationship you desire, said Evelyn before adding. I don't think I ever apologized properly for my behavior. It wasn't something you caused or created. It was all on me. I really screwed the pooch, and I'm truly sorry for the pain and inconvenience I caused. You really hurt me, Evelyn. I was never unfaithful. I lived for you and Alice. I went from having it all to feeling like a complete failure, Jasper admitted. Kylie helped me realize that while I may not have been the perfect husband, I wasn't the reason you cheated. You could have told me you were unhappy with our marriage or our love life or whatever. I would have worked to make it better if I had known. I was just stupid, Jasper, not unhappy. You were a very good husband, a great dad for Alice, and a wonderful lover, Evelyn said. I lost my way, and I deserve to be unhappy. It sounds strange, but being unhappy makes me happy. I feel like I'm paying for my sins. Wouldn't you at least come and look at the lake house? Asked Jasper. I'd like to show it to you and get your opinion. I used some of the ideas we talked about over the years on the remodeling. I think you'll approve. Alice has a volleyball match in 2 hours. Can I take a rain check on that offer? Asked Evelyn. Let's see it before the match. We can go there on a drive together, suggested Jasper, and I'll drop you off back here afterward. Aren't you worried people will think we're getting back together if we go as a couple? Usually, you sit as far from me as possible, Evelyn pointed out. Yeah, I've been a bit of an ass, but in my defense, you hurt me and our marriage. You couldn't have expected me to be cordial to you, Jasper reasoned. Actually, you were much nicer to me than I would have been to you if the tables had been reversed, Evelyn admitted. Your settlement offer was far too generous. We both know that. It would appear that niceness is paying off, said Jasper jokingly. We're thinking of selling the house so that we could buy out Dan. I'm still having trouble believing you're willing to do that. Honestly, Jasper, you can take anything of mine. You have always been a just man. I know you won't harm me, though I deserve that. Let me show you the lake house, Jasper offered, attempting to change the subject and gain time to settle his emotions. Evelyn nodded and looked over the remodeling as Jasper walked her through the house. You really did a great job. Alice's room is so big, and she has her own bath. That's every teenage girl's dream, Evelyn said. As Jasper gave Evelyn a tour of the second bedroom, she knew it was the time to discuss the elephant in the room. This is a very nice room with another great bathroom, but I really cannot stay here, Jasper. It would be far too painful to see you every day and be reminded of what I lost. We'll sell the house, and I'll get an apartment. I'll be fine. We have to leave soon for Alice's match. Let me show you the master bedroom, said Jasper in a persuading tone. It's bigger than the others. I know you'll like it. This is beautiful. You did a wonderful job, but you always do. Evelyn exclaimed as she looked around the master bedroom. That's why your business is so successful. You have an eye for detail. If you had this room, would you stay with Alice and me? Jasper asked in a rush. I'd still see you every day, and I don't think I could handle that, Evelyn said sorrowfully. I didn't mean you'd have it to yourself, Jasper said, his voice trembling with nervousness. I thought maybe we could share it. Evelyn raised an eyebrow as she studied Jasper's face. Are you asking me to share your bed? I've felt like crap since that day I found out you cheated and I left home. I miss you so much I ache at times. You screwed up pretty bad, but I slept with Kylie for several months. That took some of the sting out of your betrayal, but it doesn't absolve it. I wonder if we can get past all that and try getting back together. I am not going to be that booty call for you, man, Evelyn replied firmly. If you want to punish me more, I won't do it. If I move in, I'd be totally faithful to you and would expect the same from you. No more young hotties in your bed. There would be only me, or I'd be gone in a heartbeat. I've worked hard on getting my self-respect back, and I intend to keep it. I love you, Jasper, but you have to be all in, or I'm out. Nobody was more surprised than Alice when her parents strode